I used all natural, authentic materials. I got in touch with a hunter and a taxidermist to make sure everything was pure. The fur was real brown bear fur. The stuffing was woven from even more fur of the same bear. The more delicate parts had to be preserved, but it was necessary for conserving the authenticity of the piece. To make it feel more real, I used the skin from the bear as the body of the doll and used a makeshift skeleton fashioned from its bones to hold the arms and legs in place from inside. To make it look authentic, I used the eyes of the bear and added teeny tiny claws, clipped from the bear's paws. The nose was difficult, but doable once I reduced its size. That was kind of a bloody mess. But it was worth it. Mariella is happy, overjoyed, in fact, with the toy I made for her. Of course, she will never understand the lengths I go to make her happy like this, but I don't think there's any better feeling in the world than the appreciation of your only kid. I just hope she shows the same admiration for the baby doll I'm making for her. As a young child, I disliked staying at my grandparents' house. My grandparents didn't have a lot of interesting old people stories, and I think they were already going senile looking back. I didn't have any siblings, so I couldn't forge bonding memories with a brother or sister by playing games that would be boring at home but elevated in enjoyment due to the unique environment. They would go to bed at 8:00 p.m. at the latest, without telling me or bothering to put me to bed, leaving me to decide when it was my bedtime, alone in the dark, lonely house. And, to top it all off, they didn't have cable. Whenever my parents had me stay the weekend at Grandma and Grandpa's house, I would spend most of my time reading the old books they had, or watching TV on their basement television. One time, I drank way too much of their stockpile of soda and ended up awake well into the early morning. While I was channel surfing, having cycled through the channels about 10 times because most of it was dead air, I suddenly discovered an unnumbered channel called the Trivia Channel. There was a title card with the channel name and instructions. Press the menu button on your remote control to join the Trivia Channel. I did this, and the next card had me enter my name with a video game-style keypad, using the channel and volume arrows on the remote, along with the TV button to select letters. The next card instructed me on how to play. Each quiz had 10 questions, with answers labeled A through D, which I would select using the 1 through 4 buttons on the remote. I don't remember much more about how it worked, but I do know that less difficult quizzes had a green backdrop, while the more difficult ones had an orange backdrop, and there was some kind of point accumulation system. This was all perfectly explainable by the magic of technology. I didn't know at the time that the ability to interact with a public station in this way should have been an extreme violation of the television set's FCC device transmission compliance. I just figured it was a cool new interactive feature of the television. This was during the rise of the World Wide Web and the digital age, so it seemed perfectly in keeping with the times to me. Whenever I stayed overnight at my grandparents' house, I would play these quizzes on the trivia channel. This would require me to stay up until about 1:00 a.m. to find the channel. I knew there were other kids, or at least people, playing the channel because at the end of every quiz a leaderboard would be displayed for a few moments, showing those who had the top 10 scores. The quiz questions were all elementary school level, and being a smart kid, I quickly got on the leaderboard. Since my parents sent me to Grandma and Grandpa's house irregularly, and I could never find the channel on our own television, my place on the leaderboard would drop sometimes. But I always stayed on it, which made me think not many kids had discovered the channel. One night, or morning, I saw a card on the trivia channel, saying that since I was ranked in the top 5 on the leaderboard, I was eligible to take a special tournament quiz. The kids with the top 3 scores on this quiz would win a free trip to Disneyland. I pressed the menu button on my remote to begin the quiz. The backdrop was blue this time, and each question had 5 answer options. The questions themselves were also more difficult, being ones that only precocious children could answer, and there were 100 of them. The only question I actually remember from this, or any of the other Trivia Channel quizzes, was the last one. Who were the black and tans? Having answered this question correctly, I was given my score, 69 out of 100. I then saw a card saying, "Congratulations! You have gotten one of the top 3 scores. Your prize will arrive shortly." I stared at the screen for a few moments, confused, as the prize was supposed to be a trip to Disneyland. I always kept the lights out in the basement while on the trivia channel, in case my grandparents woke up. While I was looking at the screen, the room was flooded in a dim glow. The light was coming from the small basement windows at the top of one of the walls, which faced the subdivision street. There was a vehicle outside. I could hear the engine and saw the headlights as I peered through the window and the bushes outside, idling just 2 or 3 meters away from my face. I looked back at the screen and it said, "Your prize is here. Go claim your prize." I was struck with fear and crept up the stairs. I heard the phone ring and quickly bolted back down to slam down the receiver on the basement phone before going back up, creeping as quickly and quietly as I could to the guest bedroom. Peering down through the blinds in the bedroom window, I could see the vehicle, a dark van. It stayed there for several minutes before driving off. I never visited the Trivia Channel again. I tried not to think much about the experience as the years went by, but recently I was given a vivid reminder. I was surfing channels late at night in my apartment when I came across a screen with a blue backdrop. It had plain white text that read, there is still time to claim your prize. My apartment is on the 1st floor. Outside my kitchen window, I could see a dark van in the parking lot. Headlights on. Sally sat on her front porch, casually sipping her iced tea and watching as the empty waited at the edge of her farm. No one knew what caused the empty to appear, or why. All anyone could tell, it had just popped up in some tiny town called Harmony. Probably why no one noticed right away. At the time, it was just a small mass of pitch black nothingness, about the size of a tire. It was a big deal at the time, with all the eggheads and boffins coming down to poke and prod at it. Turns out that if something goes into the empty, it doesn't come out. It just simply ceases to be. Doesn't matter how strong it is, or how durable, or even how big, the empty consumed it all. Then, those people noticed that it was growing. About 5 miles a day, more or less. And that's when everyone got really scared. In one day, it consumed Harmony and the surrounding area, along with all those nosy scientists. Some people think they activated it or fed it, but who really knows? And now, Sally's farm, a farm that she had gotten from her dad, who got it from his dad, was about to be consumed within the day. The old barn where she'd milk the cows, the fields where she'd run and play when she was a kid, the house she'd grown up in all her life, all of it, would be consigned unto oblivion by sundown. Sally knew that she should have evacuated by now, moved as far away from the empty as she could. But what was the point? Nobody could stop the empty from growing. Nobody could even explain what it was, since all attempts to even analyze the thing ended in failure. It would be slow, but the empty would eventually spread over the earth. Of course, some people suggested that they should evacuate to space like in the movies, but that was a pipe dream at best. Humanity couldn't be asked to field enough ships to evacuate a viable population into space. And even if they could, the empty was growing up as well as out. It would probably consume anything in orbit. It would just take a lot longer. In the end, the choice was simple. She could join the fleeing population, eventually being corralled into a mass of panicked humanity as oblivion consumed them all bit by bit, or she could simply wait, surrounded by her favorite things in her own home, and go out on her own terms. It really wasn't that hard a decision. and as the empty crept, slowly but surely, onto her farm, she took another sip of her tea. She noticed the pitcher was empty, but that was all right. Sally figured she had time to make one more batch. You know that feeling when you close your eyes in a shower as you are washing your hair? That existential dread. The lead weight in your stomach. Those are there for a reason. Monsters lurk in every shadowed corner of your mind that you so desperately tried to hide away. From childhood to adulthood, you are always told, "There's nothing there. Stop being so childish. Nothing down there is going to hurt you." The fears become pushed away and hidden, blanketed by the rationality of our minds. We develop them because of the normalities of society. We see fear as a sign of weakness when we should hold on to these fears. There! Did you see it? Something was looking at you just now. Watching. Waiting. Planning. It waits until you turn away from it, your gaze no longer reaching it. Monsters are everywhere, but they are very adept at hiding now as well as alluring. They were almost wiped out because of our technological advances. They have grown to use a more manipulative and patient plan of action than their direct and forceful approach back when we were in caves and tribes. Their patience, however, is running thinner and thinner. They have started to learn faster and more efficient ways to attract and kill us. They have already started to blend in as normal people, wearing skin suits of their recent victims. They are very hard to detect because they watch you, taking notes in their minds of how you act to them, then attract more of us when they use you as a suit. We need to be aware of them and our surroundings. Every day, more and more of them disguise themselves as their latest victims to attract more and more of us. They take leaders, average workers, children, men, women, elderly. They do not stop, and will not stop, until they have devoured every last one of us. So, be wary the next time you take a shower, because one of them might decide to get a new disguise. I've always loved the rain, the gentle tapping soothing to my frayed nerves, If I closed my eyes, I could almost imagine that I was sitting at the edge of a lake, the water lapping as the rain fell in gentle accompaniment. It was cool, but not cold, the water dripping off of my nose as my dog chased a duck. Their splashing would last until Rex came running back to me, the duck angry and quacking and Rex terrified. All around us, the raindrops would fall, and I would laugh. When others complained of being depressed because the world was awash in grays and the light was muted, I looked forward to the rain. I had fond memories of watching storms come and go with my father, the wind driving the rain against the porch as we sat inches from it. The water would splash against our bare feet, and we'd share a bowl of popcorn or two. There was a beauty in the muted colors, their vibrancy hidden as the sky gave up droplets of water. I never minded the rain when I ran, each step throwing a spray of color into the air behind me after it was over. Maybe it was the kid in me, reveling in jumping into the puddles. It's why I wore shorts and short socks. When I did, my pants wouldn't be soaked for the rest of the run. I was too absorbed in my run, watching the splashes of water, that I never saw the van until I was skidding across the pavement, wishing I had on pants. Red blood mixed with the water standing on the street, and I could barely lift my head when the man approached me, anxiously twisting his hat in his hands. I thought he'd call an ambulance. The police. I thought he'd apologize. I even thought he'd get in and drive off, leaving me in a pool of my own blood under that slate gray sky. I never thought he'd call someone, whispering frantically that he thought he'd killed a runner. That, yes, he'd stay. No one else was around, and I didn't have the strength to move. My phone somehow was still blaring my jogging mix, my earbuds still attached. It took what felt like a year to move my hand slightly towards it, and he noticed. Damn it. The rain started to fall again as he knelt beside me, catching my gaze as I blinked against the light droplets. It was hard to breathe, and even harder to decide which pain to focus on, as he just barely touched my hand. He'll be here soon. Please, just go. I tried to ask him who. I tried to raise my head up, the rain running down my cheeks like tears. It mixed with the ones already there. He retreated to his vehicle before I could even get a sound out. My throat just wouldn't cooperate, my lungs unable to fill completely with air. The next thing I knew, it was dark, and I had been moved. My eyes wouldn't open, but I could clench my fingers. I couldn't hear my music playing anymore. I had no idea where I was or what had happened between my last two blinks. but I could hear the rain. What was better, though, was that I could finally move. Pain etched itself through every motion, but I was able to bring my hand to my cheek. It was then that I felt the rough covering on my face. Panic set in, and I grabbed at it, pulling the mask off and revealing the wooden box I lay in. Muted light slipped through the gaps in the lid slats. Droplets of water leaked in, the sound of a steady drizzle drowning out the buzzing in my ears. Disbelief left me confused as the water pooled around me, my right heel wet. I had lost a shoe, it seemed. I screamed until I was hoarse. The drizzle changed to a downpour, and thunder cracked above me. I pounded against the lid, the storm swallowing my desperate cries for help. As it tapered down, so did my energy. The storm renewed its vigor, but mine hasn't come back. The water laps at my chest now. And I just want to see the rain.